Awesome. So finally, we are here after, I think, almost 25 days of waiting time. So let me quickly introduce my name and where I stay, etc., my profile. So my name is Devajit. You can call me Dev as well, DEB. I'm based at Kolkata, India. And I've been in industry for almost 20 years, and throughout you can say it's a kind of full techie guy. And I'm doing the voluntary service to this institute. Time to time I teach for them, which is egain technologies. And today, as we expected, that the inter sessions will be on the hands-on boot camp on migration. When I say migration, it is a AWS related services that we are going to use for such migrations. Okay, because this is something, the AWS migration using AWS services, and how the migration will take place in real world, and what are the strategies, what are the what are the parameters you have to think through before migration and post migration. Those things we are going to discuss. Since the migration is a pretty long topic, guys, so that's why we have kept the we are the inter migration discussions. We have split it into three different sessions. So today is the first session, and then subsequent sessions will be later point of time. And also as I said, that is bit comprehensive discussion that we have, and it would be great if you can have the laptop or desktop, whatever you're using, in front of you, and then probably you can do all of the configurations along with me, and that would be nice for you. And if you have any questions, just let me know, or put in a chat window, and then probably whenever I get some time to time, and then I'll go back and see if any questions there and try to answer those questions. All right. So let's get started. So I'll ask some very random questions to everyone here, and anybody can answer. So let's say if I'll just let me bring up a very straightforward architecture diagram. So let's say this is my on-premise environment on my left, and I'm trying to migrate those applications and the database server on AWS, right? So what could be the strategy? Because today we are going to discuss the rehosting. Okay. The rehosting means, probably that this is some kind of whatever you have, whatever the same thing we'll have, okay, on your target environment, right? So that is something called rehosting. So for the rehosting, we are going to use some of the AWS services from the configuration perspective. But now again, if I go back to my main question, that in this situation, what would be the strategy? How can you start this migration, both for application server and the database server? Anybody can answer or think, maybe for 1 minute, 2 minutes, and then probably you can also answer, no problem. We have time for next 2 hours. And thanks again for joining, everybody, because today is a very important day, also India Pakistan match. And you have taken your time and showed up your face. It's really great.
So I have one clarification question. Rehosting means like a lift and shift. Whatever is running, we have to shift as it is to the AWS, right?
You are correct, Jay.
Okay.
Absolutely, yes. So yeah, that is the right answer. But see, any migration, from my experience, any migration is not easy. Even it's one server, two server, 200 server, 2000 servers. All of the
So
migration. Yes.
can I answer this?
Yes, please.
Yeah. Okay, so as we are talking about the lift and shift, so we have to look on several factors, like what kind of application is running over there on a premises, and we need to understand that whether this application will be supported to the AWS platform. This is one thing, and second thing is like what kind of hardware we are using on premises. So we need to look out the similar kind of hardware or makes or a greater a much rich configuration hardware so
Mhm.
that the application can actually run over there very smoothly. This is one second thing. And the third thing is database, what kind of database we are using on premises, and are we going to change and database schema when we are shifting to AWS,
Right.
and whether it is a convertible, let's say we are using a Oracle database. So still we are going to use Oracle database, or we are going to choose another kind of database like a no Postgres database or MySQL database. If this is so, then actually we need to find out that how we can actually migrate the database from on-premise to AWS. So there must be a DMS service which can convert the schema from one to another. And
Uh-huh.
yeah,
No, it's all of the answers are absolutely correct, Jay.
yeah,
You
okay.
explained very well. So yes, that should be, the activities, right? For any migrations, like, you need to understand the complexity of the applications. So first you need to see that if the same application can be easily migrated on AWS. So those engines are available on AWS or your target environment or not, like Jay rightly mentioned. If you have mainframe server running on premises, and or maybe you are using some of the very old legacy operating system, maybe Windows 2003 or maybe CentOS 6, then probably it is not a right candidate for your cloud journey or migrations with AWS. So then you have to think through our modernizations. That is the word you need to think for. The modernization means, you have to first re-architect or refactor, then put it on the AWS. So we'll discuss all of them slowly. But yes, for our use case, we have the same kind of environment. Let's say on-premise, there is a Windows applications running on-premise site, and there is a Windows 2019 operating systems there, and we are going to migrate the same applications to AWS using some of the AWS services. The services, the name I will discuss right now. And then after that, probably we can also discuss about the DB server migration. So for the DB, there's another tool that AWS has that is called DMS, a database management service, or in the different way of doing that, like, database own native, migrations, like if the Microsoft SQL server, it has their own logship, or if it's a MySQL, there's a binlock or GTID. So there's a lot of discussion that we'll have. But let's say, as I said, that every migration is not easy. Okay. Sorry for background noise. But let's start with that, how to configure. Okay. It is not a theory class. It is a fully, kind of practical. So if you log in your AWS management console, you will look, you'll see something like that, right? And you'll get a different services on your screen in the console home. And if you just click on there, you see, if you scroll down, and if you go to migration and transfer options, you see there's a different services that AWS offers for migrations, right? And it starts with the application discovery service, then application migration service, which is called MGN. It's pretty, these days are very popular. Database migration service, and a lot of other, services as well, like mainframe modernization, data sync, etc. So when somebody very new to AWS, or somebody is exploring how to start the migration in AWS, then for them, it will be a little confusing, being honest with you, how to start the migration, right? People think, okay, I can start with the application migration service, or I can start with the AWS migration hub. Because for me, or for somebody which is very new, he or she thinks, okay, let's start with the migration hub. But the moment, all right, the moment you log into migration hub, you cannot start your migration from there. Okay, so let me relog in to my console. So you really cannot start the migration from the migration hub. Okay, it says a lot of other things like the refactor spaces, and there are a lot of informations, use cases, right? But if you go back and again go to this migration and transfer and start with application discovery service, that could be the starting point for you. Okay, and there are these application discovery service are not available across all of the AWS regions. It is very specific to some of the regions. But if I just select North Virginia for this demo, for this session, then you actually can see there are different, left hand side, there are different areas, okay, different classes. One is the discovery class, one is assessment, and one is migrate. These are three important class you really need to remember throughout your life. Okay, and whenever you start doing the migration, right? So the discovery is so who can explain what is discovery? What do you mean by the discovery? And then we can discuss about the assessment, and then we can discuss about the migrations. Anybody can give it a try? What do you mean by discovery?
Discovery means it's like finding the other device which you wanted to migrate it. So it should be visible on this to have the connectivity established between those two.
Yes, partially correct answer, Vivek. I can take your answer and not fully wrong, but I need more clarifications, more explanations what exactly discovery means.
So it would mean the type of applications, databases, or other services that you have on premise.
Yeah, so Vivek answered the same thing. Yeah, so let me explain. Both of you are right. So for any migration, the discovery is a kind of ultimate, or it can be a starting point. That means that yes, whatever the servers, whatever the applications, whatever the devices that you have on premise, and whatever the application or servers you'd like to migrate on AWS. But it doesn't end here. Along with discovery, you really need to know the utilizations matrix of such on-premises server. So now, what do I mean by utilization factor or measurement? Utilization means, let's say, for your on-premise environment, you have certain servers, okay, very big servers, fat servers, okay, very expensive servers. Let's say you have got a 64 core, maybe 512 GB RAM, certain servers. And sometimes what happened when you start the migration, actual migration, you see those on-premise server not fully utilized. Okay, it is underutilized many times, or it can be overutilized also. We'll discuss later. For the underutilized server, so let's say if you have 64 core, 512 GB RAM on-premise, then if you do the same kind of configuration on AWS, then you have to pay a lot of money. So for your business people, or maybe for your customer, they won't get a proper ROI or return of investment. Yes, we are all techie guy, but sometimes cost plays a significant factor, right, in end of the day. So the right sizing is very important for cloud. Okay, maybe that much of resources, computing resources you don't need. You can have lesser number of resources on cloud. That is something about the discovery. So let me show you. I've already done, and also I'll show you from scratch. So I have under the discovery, I have got one server, and where I have installed some of the agent, how to install agent, that I will show you. If I go to that particular server details, you see, as somebody already explained, that you can have a lot of technical information of those source server. Okay, the MAC address of the server, IP address, number of ports, right? How many disk, what would be the hypervisor, and all stuff, right? Free disk space. So it would give you some kind of inventory of your source server, right? But if you just go down a bit, of course, Windows operating system, if you go down a bit, you will see that is the matrix. That is something very, very important for you for the migrations. So you can see that that particular server, if I would like to migrate on AWS, but this server CPU utilizations average is 22% or maximum 62%. So it's RAM and other disk related, metrics like IOPS and writes and reads, network, free RAM. So that means if that is my production server running on premises on my data center, outside, out of AWS or somewhere else, or maybe Azure is running or anywhere in the world, then I can have little lesser than these computing resources. Maybe I don't need that much of RAM and CPU, so that I can save a lot of money, and my migration also can be successful in terms of proper return of investment or TCO. So it is very important for cloud engineer or DevOps guy or solutions architect, whatever you are, that always try to gather those information or ask from your customer, sir, what is your utilization matrix? Can you please share? If your customer can share, well and good. If they don't have, then probably you can go for this discovery process. Okay, so you need to install some agents or agentless, something like that.
So for
Yes.
doing this discovery or analysis, putting the analysis on the on-premises server, what we need to do, actually what software is going to install, and what kind of hardware do we need to install that application to make this analysis on premises?
This is something I'm going to show you step by step,
Okay.
how to do
Okay.
that. So this is a kind of overview, like if I can start from installing all of the agent, probably some of you don't capture, right, what I'm actually our intention of this call, right? So that's I'm just first showing how does it look like, and then definitely we can go back and do all of the installations process. So yeah, there are a lot of other factors as well, like for real environment, your customer, they don't allow you to install agents. That's a separate story. Let's not discuss right now. So under this discovery, there are a lot of other tools in other sections, not tools, other sections that I will just go and touch base. But the most important thing is how can we install certain thing on my on-premise server that is there, so that it will discover and it will share all of the metadata of the properties of that particular server to AWS, and you can see all of these metrics and parameters, right? This is our intention. So first, what I need to have, we need to have a source server. For me, I don't have any on-premise server, but what I can do, let's assume that the server is running on premises. It is still on AWS, but the same thing, if you have the Azure account, for your case, you can you can create a Azure virtual machine, and you need to install some of the agents. Okay, what agents? You see there's an option called tools. If you click on the tools, then you see there are so many discovery tools available, right? You need to install and execute those tools to capture all of the metrics. The first is application discovery service, which is agentless collector. So agentless means you really don't need to install any agents. If you have the VMware environment, you simply download the collector. If you download the collector, you see there's a OVA file will get installed. I don't have any such VMware environment, but if your on-premise environment are VMware, you can install this OVA file in your VMware vCenter environment, and then this particular agents will collect all of the virtual machines, running on your VMware environment, and then we'll send those metrics like whatever we have just seen to this console, and you see all of the different individual servers details. For us, what we can do, we can use this AWS discovery agent, which is an agent, not an agentless. So yes, you need to download and you need to install that agents on your on-prem and in your source server. Make sense? So let's do that. So first, if you click on the download agents, you get a different varieties, definitely Windows and Linux, different distributions. You can also use Windows CLI or Linux CLI. So let's first download the Windows exe version of Discovery installer. That's one. It is coming because I've already installed one of the exes for a different batch, but that's right. And this is very important, guys. Whenever you download at the same time, you see there's a certain comments are there, the syntaxes. Basically, you need to define AWS key ID and AWS secret key ID. Okay, so this particular session is not for 100 level or 200 level. Maybe if you don't know what is AWS, or if you don't ever AWS what is IAM, then probably you cannot capture, or you cannot understand. But you can still stay with me because you have some of the understanding. So what I can do, that I can copy and I'll put it somewhere in my laptop, so that I can refer this particular syntax later point of time. I'll show you. So just bear with me. Just trying to open. Sorry for that. Okay. So I've saved that, and now let me close. So that
Then
means
I have one question. Actually, when we started the migration up, and we could see like this tool or this feature is available only in a few regions,
correct.
right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So let's say we are doing a migration in which region that this migration hub is not available. Then how we have to deal with that?
Very good question. It's a very great question. So what happened that for this discovery is not a mandatory thing. It is optional, but it's a best practice always, right? To have the proper discovery. So right now, as on today, AWS, if that tool is not available in your region, let's say Mumbai, let's say we are all, most of us from India location, and in Mumbai, these tools are not available, then you cannot use this discovery tool. But what AWS says, that since it is not a data, it is something like only taking the metadata properties of the server. It doesn't matter that your country or region is different. You can still use North Virginia location to capture those data, okay, and have some analysis. And then your actual migration, when you start the migration, which is there right there, then you see this particular migration service across all of the available regions in AWS. So to answer your questions again, that if you don't find your region for this discovery, then you can still use the discovery for your region, and you get all of the metrics for your own analytics. Okay, once you are done that, then when you do the actual migration, and if you go to the actual migration, then all of the migration feature and functions you get in your respective region. It can be Mumbai, it can be somewhere else.
Thank you.
Okay, so okay, so let's go back. So we have downloaded that particular agent and copied that particular comment. And now what I can do, let me open a new tab and let's launch a brand new EC2 instance and assume that that particular EC2 instance is my on-premise virtual machines. Okay, since I don't have many other different on-premise server, etc., we can assume that could be my on-prem server. So what I'm going to do now, quickly create a server, give it a name like on-prem server application 1 or something like that, on-prem server app, and then you select your respective operating system. Of course, for our case it's Windows, and it can be 2022 or 2019. Let's go back to 2019's previous version. Maybe customer is using little previous version, not 2022. And then from here you have to define, let's say some of the 2 virtual CPU, 4 GB RAM machine. It could be more. I'm just for this particular demo purpose, I'm just showing this, and create a key new pair. Let's say for our case, it can be again the migration demo, and we'll use this key pair throughout our session, the migration demo, and simply create key pair. All right, and as of now, let it be as is, though it's not recommended that RDP is allowed from everywhere. But if your security, some of the security folks are here, they don't like these options, whatever I'm doing right now. But right now, we are all okay about these options, and simply hit the launch instance. So again, whoever joined little late, for them, I can just take another 2 minutes. So whatever we are doing right now, it is something like we are using AWS migration tool for migration of on-premise server to AWS. And since we don't have any on-premise server, so what we do that we have created one Windows 2019 operating system, which will be acting like on-prem server, and then we'll use we can log in to that particular server through RDP and install the discovery agents that I've already downloaded, and we'll try to capture all of the informations from that particular server. Okay. It will take some time. So what now we can do, if I go back to our migration hub again, so you'll see that these sections are discovery, and then another section called the assessment. So since our server is being created, we can utilize the time. So the assessment phase, it will give you some of the idea, like based on the metrics that you have captured for your on-premise server. Okay, for this server, let's say all of the metrics already we'll capture. Based on that metrics, what would be your ideal instance on AWS? Okay, so if you go to EC2 instance recommendation sections, okay, and then if you scroll down a bit, you will see there are a lot of different fields. So basically it will tell you, okay, based on the maximum utilization of CPU and RAM, okay, and based on the regions you have selected, let's say you are going to deploy your target instance on North Virginia or Mumbai, so that's your call as per your requirement. So for me, maybe it's Mumbai, and I'm okay for the shared instances. I'm okay for reserve or on-demand pricing model. If I just export recommendation, don't worry, I will again repeat the same process, same steps. Then it will give me some kind of recommendation that, okay, based on that matrix for the server I've already had, okay, not now, already had before the demo, right? I showed you. If you just open that particular CSV file, you will see it gives me certain recommendation that, okay, I can have T3A medium on my target AWS. So based on the utilization of CPU, RAM, disk, memory utilizations, the whatever the matrix it's captured, based on that, it is good to go that if you can go for the T3 medium, though it is not recommended from, T3 medium, it is not for productions, but AWS does its own job. It is saying, okay, based on that workload, it sees that it's not very heavyweight, applications maybe. So your T3 medium is perfectly fine for such certain, migration, for that particular migration. So your destination target server can be T3 medium. I repeat once again. So if I go to the servers, so this server is already there before the demo starts, because okay, and if I just go to there, and if you scroll down, you see there's a lot of performance information. Based on that performance metrics, this EC2 instance recommendation captures all of the metrics and giving me all of the recommendation that T3A, T3A medium is okay for your target server on as a EC2 on AWS.
Okay, so I have one question. So if we are not discovering that server, just example, we are taking a manual information from the customer regarding their performance, utilization, and everything. So how we can get the judgment and this particular tab? Are we going to get that?
Very
Like
good question. Yeah. So let's say your customer doesn't allow you to install this agent. Sometimes, most of the cases, it's happening because they are busy at their own work, right? And they don't understand what agent is, because in productions without proper testing, it is also risky for your customer that what sort of agents you are going to use, right? They don't know how they can trust. So in that case, it is a good question. In that case, what you can do that if you go to the tools here again in the discovery section tools, you can see there's an option called import. Okay, there's a manual process. So if you go to import, then AWS will give you some of the template that your customer or customer IT team, they have to fill it up. Okay, something like that. If I just download the import template, and if we just go to the import template, this one, it is a sample. So your customer, maybe MAC address, IP address is not that important, but at least they have to put it like, your CPU informations, operating systems, right? The server, compute utilizations, all of the metrics, if they can fill it up, most of them. And then once you are, let's say, once you have got this information on your email or somewhere else, some other media, then what you can do that you can simply import the data. Okay, first you have to put in S3 and you import the data. The same thing your assessment EC2 instance recommendation will do, that based on the sizing preference, whatever you select there, it will give you some kind of recommendation, the same recommendation that you just you have seen. If you need to do a kind of manual thing. I'll show you also maybe in the next session, how can you do this in the manual stuff. Does it answer your question, Vivek?
Yeah. Thanks.
Super. So let me go back to our EC2, and I believe by that time it is there. So that's my server, on-premise server applications, and it's time to log into the server and install the discovery agent. So if I go to connect and click on the RTP, get the password, and simply upload the PEM file that we have created, password copy, and download remote desktop file. So if I go to, since it's a Mac machine, so its RDP comes in a different way, but if you're using Windows, then for you, it will come as RDP service installed. So I'm actually connecting to the particular server, which is this one, and this I've successfully connected. So now the next activity would be that I'm going to install the discovery agent right there inside that server, which is source for me. Okay, so what I can do, let me minimize and let me go to my folders, download. Just simply copy that one, what I've got downloaded, input template. That's all. And it is always a good practice that if you can, if it's a Windows machine, you should go and paste it on C drive, not in the desktop. I'm not saying in desktop is a bad place for you, but it is recommended. If I just open my C drive and simply put there. So leave the copy on. So meanwhile, what we can do in interest of time, for this kind of discovery, you need a proper IAM or identity access management user, which should have a certain permission, okay, for doing this activity. So probably if you can remember that the syntax, I have already copied, after the download happens, right, done, then that particular syntax, you see there's an option called access key ID and secret access key, that basically it will call the user who has the proper permission for doing all of the activities. So that's the reason that you should have an IAM user with the proper permission privileges. Okay, so what I'm going to do, let me
so one question.
Yeah, Mobile.
Sorry to interrupt you.
No problem.
Yes, sir. As you said, we need a IAM user for this. Like, is this a best practice that we are doing, or like, is it something must we should do? How is it?
It's a good question. So it is recommended, so because whenever you do this discovery, the syntax clearly says that you need to provide the proper IAM authentications. Okay, but the thing is that you can define the roles. That means you can define a fine-grained access control that only for the discovery service, only for the migration, those kind of permission you can give to that particular user. Okay, to secure your environment.
So what if I have the root user access? I'm the one who is migrating the server.
So I mean, root user is not recommended. So root user is not recommended. So let's say
yeah. So basically, we are doing the best practice, right?
Yes. So whatever I'm showing you, I am using my root user, but for your case, that is something like you have to create the IAM user, okay, separately, that I'm going to use. I'm going to create, and then you should have a proper access control for that particular users. Does it answer your question, or you dropped because I cannot see you?
Got it, sir.
Okay, you there? Okay. So yeah. So if I go to IAM, if we go to IAM and quickly create IAM user. Let's say migration. Migration new. And you can directly attach policies directly. But yes, Mobin is absolutely right that for your production use case, you should have a proper policy. You should define a proper permission. Otherwise, it would be a security problem, and probably the security people, they will come to you, and there will a lot of audit. It will be a problem. We have to define a proper permission, but here let's go for the administrator access. Let's say this migration user, he or she should have an administrator access. And then if I go there and quickly create the user, migration new, and inside the security credentials, you need to have an access key and secret key, because that is the a step that you have to follow. Create access key. I know that I'm going a little faster, but I assume that all of you know these basic steps, so that I can skip. Did I download that? Yeah. So I've created a user, and now all set. what I can do, if I can go to that particular user, I'm already there. And if you go down, you can see there is access key is active, and I've already downloaded that one again in my downloads. But again, for your real case, you should have your own key repository where you save all of the keys, right? It can be a different key repository. So that's the key ID and secret access key that we need for those discovery agent to run properly from my on-premise source server. So if I go back to the server, it is copied now, and just need to rename. Yep. And if you see that particular command, to execute the command, what I can do that I just need to open PowerShell or CMD. It works also from CMD, but PowerShell will give you a better options. So I can just launch PowerShell as a run as administrator. A little bit, okay, it's not moving up. Yeah, and what I can do, if I just bring that particular comment that I've saved, I'm just copied there, and since it's there in my C drive, okay, if I just put, so here you can see that AWS Discover Agent Installer exe region US East 1, and definitely this key ID is needed. So I need to replace this key ID with my IAM key ID and access key secret, right? Pretty straightforward. So what I can do now, I actually can change first in my editor. Just hold on. Just try to open this. Just copy there. Put it.
Dev, if I'm not wrong, this access key is for the IAM user which you have created right now, correct? Migration new, correct?
Absolutely, absolutely. Because it needs certain authentication, right? That is going to do what? Right? That is the reason. I'm just simply checking if I missed anything. Okay, now I just copied that. Okay, so I've just hit the enter button. If no error will come as output, then probably you think that your execution is successful. And also, if you see that there's an Amazon certificate, security certificate got created because of the connection establishment. There's a proper certifications needed. And if you just double click the Amazon Discovery Agent, it is saying that, okay, modify setup. That means it's successfully installed. If you are the Windows guy, you know that if a particular ex is already installed, and next time if you would like to reinstall, then probably it's a modified setup because already installed. Anyways, so that first part is done. So I repeat once again what I've just done. Some of the confusions, maybe whoever joined a little late. The first, we have installed this discovery agent on this on-premise server for the discovery. And then this IAM user ID, IAM key ID and secret key ID, we need it for some of the authentication, because without authentication, how this migration discovery will start, right? It is a basic concept. So I've executed that. Can you please mute Jay if you are not speaking? Thank you. So once this discovery process is done, then it will take some time. Don't expect that immediately the discovery will start propagating or replicating. If I just go back and go to the migration hub and go to the servers, you can still see that my first server is there, but you need to wait for some more time, and then probably you can see your next server will come up. Okay. And if I go to data collectors, and if I go to discovery agents, now you can see that the first one, it was there, which is September 26. So those migrations already done. But right now, just few minutes back, I have installed this discovery agent on my local on-premise server, and it is still collecting. So the collection status is collecting, and it is running. Okay, that means that yes, I have successfully installed that particular connector on my on-premise setup, and the replication has started for this kind of discovery. Again, don't get confused that this is the actual migration. It is not. It is only for discovery. Okay. So let's move on.
I have two questions.
Two questions. Yeah.
Yes. First question is that actually, usually whatever we install on Windows machine, then we just double click on this executable file and then we do next. Okay. But in this case, actually, we install this discovery package through the PowerShell script.
Yes.
Right. So why we did this here? Can't we just double click on install that?
We tried double click on that, but what AWS recommends, because if you go for the click, then this access key ID and secret access key, those field will not come up during the installations package initializations.
Okay, so it is not going to ask for a access key and secret key.
Yes. Okay. Many folks, they actually double click, click, finish. But ultimately, they have to have execute the PowerShell command later point of time. So what what we do, that we actually use this process for that. This PowerShell, it will be easier, and it will be kind of bulletproof that it will work.
The second question is like we just install that discovery package. And when we come out here, data collector, under the data collector, then we see that this process is collecting the data. But what I see that we did not make any connection. We did not actually give any IP address and did not make any entry in the security group. Nothing had happened actually.
Absolutely.
So is it going to happen in the same way in a real scenario?
Yes. So what happened? Now, what happened for the discovery? For the discovery, the installer agent packages, it has all of the parameters, attributes inbuilt during inside that software, right? Because there's no security group, because right now we are collecting only the properties of the data or properties of the server. Okay, this is a kind of metadata of the server, right? The utilizations, because at the AWS side, we have not yet launched any EC2 or nothing security group, there. It is only a console which collects all of the data from your source server, okay, through this agent or agentless, and once all of the metrics are got collected, then your actual migration will start. So to answer your questions, so for the productions event, what we can do that, yes, first of all, we need to establish a proper VPN connectivity, because sometimes if you're a government customer or banking or BFSI, They always, from my experience, they don't rely these data collectors much, because you understand there are a lot of process security checks and CISO there, So we actually do a very rare thing for the data collectors, being honest with you guys, for the actual production. But you also need to understand how migration have every services. That's why I'm just showing you up. But somebody asked me, somebody asked me that then what would be the next way. Somebody asked me just a couple of minutes back, if there's a manual processes, right? So usually that thing we do, like their IT department or their DevOps people, they actually filled up that form, which is the import template. And then later point of time, you can just upload the import template there, and then you'll get all of the assessment results. Understood?
Yeah.
Okay. Because the real world and the learning is different. So always, because this is a real kind of bootcamp thing that we are trying to do here. So that's my responsibility to tell you the same thing, like, in real world, whenever you talk to a customer, then be mindful and thoughtful, right? You propose data collectors, but you should have a proper justifications in your hand, that if they will ask a lot of 100 questions about the security, and if you don't have such questions, typically you say that AWS trusted services, etc., but it will actually delay your processes, right? Then you can simply go for the import templates options right there. I showed. Because
just for knowledge purpose, just wanted to know, you guys are doing maximum migration activity. So most of the customers, if I understand, they will be giving you the manual template, if I'm not wrong.
Yeah, you asked this question, Vivek, right? And then I said your manual template in their template format, it will not work. Okay. Then you have to convert their template to AWS template, right? Something like that. So let's say if I go back to again tools and whatever the templates, column and rows, right?
Correct.
So better that whenever the discussion starts, once your project, your business people, they are done their job, and then it will come to you as a engineer team, or whatever you have, right? The implementation team. Then it is your job to share the import at the very first day. Otherwise, you need to do a lot of job for the data modifications from their template to your template, AWS template. You understand? I mean, now you got it, right, Vivek?
Yeah, I got it.
It's very important. So in AWS, from AWS, whenever I take discuss a lot of things with customers, right? And then this kind of questions always comes. Typically, I handle AWS, government sector as a database specialist and senior solutions architect, right? So these kind of questions, whenever I come to me, the same kind of response from my end, that AWS is very secure in terms of this tooling and all, but there are a lot of mambo jumbo happens. That's why I'm saying. Anyway, so that's not a discussion point now. So let's go back to our discovery options, and then now you see in the servers, the new servers has come up, but not yet started, because the still at the back end, the agent is pushing all of the data to this migration hub. So that's why I'm saying that it will take some time for getting populated. So if you just open your new server, which is our new server right now, which is on premises, you see the IP address got captured, MAC address captured, operating system got captured, but still the disk and all of the performance informations are not there. Okay.
One question, like
yes,
is on-premise server, you take the AWS instance only, right? It's for the practical purpose. So if I have my virtual box, like VMware machine, right, in my Windows, that's something we can do to migrate.
Yeah, absolutely. Probably you late Priyaranjan, whenever we discuss these things. So let me answer to your questions again. So what happened that if you are using Hyper-V or VMware, on premises, still you can do this migration, but tools will be little different. So there's a tool called application discovery service. If your entire environment is a VMware stack like vCenter and all stuff, right? And but also you can do that, you can individually install the same agent on each and every machine. Let's say if you are using VMware, but let's say your number of servers is 10 or 12, right? Still you can install this AWS discovery agent on each and every servers, and then you can do the same kind of job. Or if you say, no, I don't have much time for doing that, so then you can use this particular agentless collector. It will give you some kind of OVA file. Okay, you know what is OVA, right? VMware.
Yeah.
And then you just import the OVA file, and this OVA file, that will be actually a virtual appliances, and it will collect all of the metrics from all of the servers, and they will push all of the metrics to that migration hub, something like that.
Like, so like we have so many servers, like hundreds of server on the on-premises. We cannot deploy the same agent in each and every server, right, sir?
Yes. So very good question, Mobin. So what we do, for that particular thing, we use some of the automation. So, so what we do, we just, you can give the exe file to your on-premises, team or your customer team. What they can do that in your MS Microsoft Word, there's a auto deployment functions, right? So the exe file, they can put it on the machines, the source machine, and this execution that the PowerShell script that I've shown, that also can be automated through
Where
their
we can
automation.
get that file, sir? If you don't.
Sorry, Mubin, could you please come again? What's the question?
What file we have to give to the clients to use? Like, do we get it from AWS itself, or how?
Yeah. So I showed you, right? So in the tools, there's a tool called AWS Discovery Agent. So I've already downloaded, and the same tool,
Yes,
tool, right? This tool. If you go to your machine, and I'm talking about that tool for the discovery purpose.
Yes, I got it.
And the syntax, you have to share the syntax, and they can do automations at their end, or you can do.
Got it, sir. Got it. Possible.
Super. So yeah, so now still, so what I can do now, let's all of the metrics collect by using this, and in interest of time, we can go for the actual migration now. Okay. So for the migrations, if you go down, you see there's a migrations, right? There's applications, updates, and tools. Okay, before I get into that, one thing I would like to re-emphasize here. Couple of things here as well, under discover servers, application, data collectors, and tools. So data collectors I've already shown you. It is a kind of the updates, what's going on with these discovery agents, right? And if you have agentless collectors, somebody asked, Priyaranjan asked these questions for their VMware box. If you go for the agentless collectors, those information you will see for agentless. For discovery, connectors, for their different connectors, you will see, what's going on. Even somebody asks import, for import, they will see. But the application is very important, guys. The application, what happened that, in reality, there are different servers from the different application ecosystem, right? Let's say some of the servers are part of their CRM, application. Some of the servers or application related to maybe their supply chain. So we don't know, right, what sort of application. But during this, during the conversation with your customer before you start the migration, those are the details, super important, gentlemen, for this migration. So you can do, or you can create some kind of grouping, a logical grouping, and that's something we call applications. So the application, it is nothing but it's kind of logical grouping. So let's say whatever I'm going to do right now, it is my CRM applications. Okay, it is just an application name and CRM, something like that, right? And if you can create that, then what happened that under the CRM application, you can add servers. let's say if I go add, and let's say that's my server. This is only for your updates, only for your records, right? It is nothing related to technical thing. It is only for you to track how's going on. So let's say under CRM there are 5 servers, okay, and if you add all of the servers inside the CRM, then your team or your transition team or your implementation team or you as a engineer, you will get to know how things are going on for the CRM application stack, the ecosystem. So one, maybe the CRM application done, then probably you can have another application you can start with, right? Because for migration is very complex and there might be a dependency for one application to another application, right? So during the conversation with the customer, also you need to understand, in the requirement gathering session, like, what application you should touch first, what application you should touch second, and if there are any dependency, how can you manage the dependency, right? Because if you put all of the servers, keep on server 100 servers here, then for you it is very difficult for you to track which servers for what, right? It is not giving you any visibility, like which servers for what. But if you just do maintain some kind of logical grouping, then probably you can understand, oh, my test application, which is my dev and maybe QA, whatever, it is completed. Now my CRM application will start, though it's the discovering phase, it's not actual migration started, but you now understand, right? What I'm trying to explain here. All right, so now let's go to migration. Now you can see in the migration event, the same kind of thing has come up. Now the discovery is done, but it's not started. By my test application, migration is done. But how migration can start? In the migration also, it has got their own tools. For discovery, you have got their own tools. For the migration, you have got their own tools. If you click on tools, then you can see there are 2 popular tools, which is application migration service, MGN. One is database migration service, which is DMS. We'll discuss in our subsequent lecture. So we are going to use this application migration service because that's our application we are going to migrate. Okay. So how many of you know, or our the Cloud Endure migration? Have you ever heard this name? Cloud Endure? I think yes. So Jay unmuted. Yeah, you heard about name Cloud Endure? Okay. All right, silence. So Cloud Endure is a tool that AWS has been using for long. Okay. I think for last few years, AWS has been using Cloud Endure migration for their migration and the disaster recovery solutions. Okay, by the way, it reminds me, there's another upcoming free 3 days bootcamp on the disaster recovery services as well. So once our migration bootcamp will be done, then we'll also discuss the disaster recovery hands-on bootcamp for your information. So this cloud migration used to come the both module. One is migration as well as that one, which is concept called a disaster recovery, right? So now AWS has replaced the Cloud Endure migration with application migration service, which is MGN, their own setup tool. Okay. So basically at backend, still using Cloud Endure, but in a better way. Okay. So now you can see for the migration tool for the application migration service, you still need to have certain tools. If I just click on the connect option, it will take me to a different tab. Okay, and then it's already installed. Just hold on. If I go back, I just need to have the tool. I go back there, tools, already downloaded. That's the thing. Okay, I'll re-download again. So this migration service, you can see that I've already done a migration for one of my test servers before the demo starts, and it will give you this kind of representations of how things are going on. Okay, so there's a different section that it will give you. Okay, is there any error or any information? So if you see there's a server, you can see there's a source server name. Then you will see there's a life cycle of the migration. We'll see everything in detail, but just to give you some of the idea how things will work. In the life cycle, first it is for the testing, and then there's a cutover phase, and then actual migration happened for this particular server. Whatever the server I've already done. So there's a lot of informations around. All right, there's a server details, and then there's a replication settings, launch settings, etc., etc. Okay. So now the same thing we're going to do for our source server, right? If I go back and I'm just try to see the particular tools already downloaded, or I can go to Gene download for Windows. Hold on, I think I should have the tool already, and go to okay. So for me, let's say it is North Virginia, Mumbai. So you have to see first, so where you would like to deploy that. So let's say North Virginia. If I just go and paste it over there, so you can see the same kind of thing, AWS replication Windows installer. Okay, that is the exe. So what I'm going to do, I've just copy that particular exe, and probably you understand that's my source server. And then if I go to desktop, sorry, C drive, paste it. Similarly, just like a discovery, let it be. And there's also the same kind of thing you have to follow, like the proper authentications. So that is something also to show you. If you see this installation instructions, go to Windows, and then you have a proper permission and all stuff, and then there's install first. You need to install the agent, and then there's a downloadable link and generate a temporary credentials. If you go there, so if I go back and simply click that one, so still I'm trying to find it out because I've already downloaded. That's why it's not connecting and giving me the stuff. Let me add server. Yeah. So what I've just done, I have just copied this installer. This time it is a real migration installer. It's not a discovery installer. Discovery installer, it has done its own job, and now we are going to do the actual migration using this tool called AWS Replication Windows Installer in the same C drive location. So going back to my AWS Migration Hub, so we are here in the tools section. So the next step in the AWS Migration Service, just click on the connect, and then there's an option called add server. Add server means I've already done this server and I'm going to do my migration for a new server. So the moment you click on the add server, it will give you options called Linux or Windows distributions, or Windows, right? So for our case, it is Windows. One thing is very important, people, like, for the real migration, there are a couple of pointers. It is not just simply go and use this MGN tool and start migration. You should have a proper network connectivity between your on-prem and the AWS, right? And when I say proper internet connectivity, that means it is always preferable that you should have the direct connect or a very good internet connectivity. So probably direct connect is a service. It's a kind of point-to-point network service between your on-prem and AWS, and it is very secure. And whenever you start the migration, again during the requirement gathering time, you should ask your customer that how many servers, how much the disk volumes, right? And how much the transactions per second, that means how much data is getting changed over the period of time, CDC basically, right? And based on that, you or your solutions architect team will propose a proper proposal and right solution. Because many times what happened that it is not just few clicks and your migration will start, but in real world you should have a proper connectivity in place. So if I just bring my diagram once again, so it looks like very simple, but you should have a kind of connectivity which is IPsec VPN or direct connect. Otherwise your migration will completely fail. I have a question for you. Try to answer those questions. So for this kind of network connectivity, what would be the pointers, okay, that you have to really think through, or you have to consider during this migration discussion with the customer? How much direct connect, or maybe how can you start the migration? Because discovery you understand, in a lot of tools you understand, but in reality, how can you start the conversation? Because that's my responsibility to also show you. Okay, maybe it's hands-on, but those informations also needed. Anybody can give it a try. Okay, so I can answer, or okay, so a couple of pointers. So first is, definitely you need to ask for their BOQ, or maybe I can call it the inventory of the servers. Okay, inventory of servers means how many servers they are planning for such migrations, right? Then definitely you need to ask the detailed relationship of such inventory, which application does have what dependency on what other application and ecosystem, right? So this kind of dependency discovery is very important. So the discovery mean, I'm not talking about the AWS discovery, I'm talking about the theoretical discovery that your customer can answer well, okay, because you don't know about their applications, right? They are expert about their application, they know the dependency and all stuff, right? Then definitely somebody already explained that the source OS DB version, okay, DB version and application details. So probably you're thinking, okay, the application details means it's kind of lift and shift, right? It's kind of block level replications. So whatever you have, the same thing we'll have on AWS by using this replication, disk to disk replication. Then why you're asking this question, application needs, you need to know. Because sometimes what happened that they have Exchange server, okay? Sometimes they have a SharePoint server. So those server is not a good candidate for this kind of block level applications. Maybe the data will be there, but ultimately it will not work because the Exchange server, the SharePoint server, it has got their own different world, right? A lot of complex there. Maybe some of the Oracle applications also. So this important, very important that you need to raise the flag at the initial level. Okay, this is not a right suitable application for the migration, at least for rehosting or lift and shift. Maybe you have to do a kind of modernizations and then you can do the migration.
So, Dev, I have just one question.
Yes, Vivek.
So when this is like when we are doing a establishing between two connectivity from your source to AWS.
Hmm.
So my concern is when we are taking the files like the manual file in which we are giving it to the customer to fill it up and give all the informations. So these informations also will be covered on that particular file, right?
Yes, it will be covered. Of course, it will be covered, but I don't think there is a application details and dependency there. It is only a kind of the inventory for the your only operating system, CPU, RAM, free memory, those information. So what I would like to put it on the table is as much as information if you get, then your overall migration journey will be better. Okay, because what happened in many cases from my experiences, if you don't have this information, then simply they will blame to engineer team or maybe your team, like your migration is failed because
Okay.
you are doing pretty good job because you have done all of the things like your proper setup, landing zone, everything is fantastic, but maybe the application is not compatible for AWS or cloud, right? Then
Okay.
probably you understand, right? I'm coming from
Yeah,
where.
yeah. Correct.
So this is something like you are the hands-on guy, you are the back-end engineering team, all or DevOps guy, all okay, but you should be part of the call with your customer once your pre-sales team or something they have done their job, and then your role will come into picture. Ultimately, people will hold you responsible if the
Yeah,
migration
correct.
will stop, right? Yeah, I'm just coming from the real production situation. It happens in real world every single day. Yeah. So inventory, dependency, source, DB, version, there are a lot when you discuss about the database servers. This is my personal favorite, the database. So we'll discuss the different way of database server migration handling, but now we are only focusing that particular layer, the dependency, and how we can start the migration. So go back to the configuration. So now we have the Windows, and here this is very important that you see there's a legacy operating system, Windows Server 2003 to 2008. You can still migrate. That is very cool. Earlier I think it was not there, but now it is there. So even for the Linux, I think for Linux it is not there. Yeah, for Windows it is there. So now you have to choose what are the disk you have to migrate. Sometimes what happened that during the migrations time, they have a different drive, right? C, D, E, F. There's a lot of partitions there, and then if you would like to replicate all the disks of all of the servers, then you have to choose all disk, or probably if your customer is saying no, I need only a few disks, then you have to choose accordingly. But best practice that we do, we usually do all the disk. Okay. There's a questions many people they actually ask that what about the share storages, share volume, like if you have some of the NAS or some of the SAN storage is attached to the on-prem server, then how can you manage? In that case, there's a different solution called data sync in the migration family. But this is something like if you would like to migrate your operating system, your binaries, your application, those are installed on, your C drive or D drive. Those drives you can migrate, and then probably for the NAS storage or with the SAN storage, you can go for some of the AWS different migration service later point of time. Now the same thing, like for here as well, the same key ID and access key. Since I have created the migration new user ID for the discovery, the same user information I can use here as well. Okay, so it would be easier for us to do that. So just copying that. So I'm from Kolkata. You can see there's a background puja celebration has started, right? And the back end there's a
Yeah, because from Sunday onwards, from tomorrow onwards, Durga
yes,
Puja is starting.
absolutely. So the sessions tokens are not mandatory, but some of the folks, the security folks, they would love to do that. They're saying, okay, I have to do a proper sessions token that only the temporary credentials will work. So I think Mobin asked this question sometime back, that if I can define something else than the IAM. So probably you can also think for the sessions tokens, Mobin, that you will get the documentation there. How can you use sessions token for this certain migration as well?
Yes, sir.
So
I'm a cloud security engineer, so yes, very familiar with this.
I like security, but somehow I do a lot of study at my age as well. But security is always very close to my heart. But I'm a database guy, and but security is really an awesome thing. Mobin.
That's
I
great.
think
That's
for your career, though it's not a right place to discuss, but for your career, you have to be aligned with your security portfolio in longer run. Okay, definitely you'll get a better,
sure.
very better result. So okay,
Sure,
so
thank you.
now, yeah, no problem. So now you can see there's a I've already installed, already downloaded that particular installer from google.com. But here also you can download the installer from here in this particular options as well. But what I can do now, I need this this one PowerShell command again for the actual migration. So what I'm going to do now, I'm just copy that and paste it on another my editor. I will refer to that, and this time probably you have noticed that this time the access key ID and secret access key ID is already incorporated. So you really don't need to put separately. It already, AWS already created for us, so our life bit easier. So now what I'm going to do now, I am going for the main machine, which is that source server. And if I go and launch PowerShell, oh, sorry. That is happening. Okay, let me relaunch. Okay, and then I simply copy the command and put it over there. Okay, so you can see there's a, I am actually calling the Windows installer exe, which is in my C drive, which is my root. Then AP South 1, which is my target environment, that where there it will get installed, this AP South 1, right? Mumbai location. Then that would be my PID and secret identity and no prompt. No prompt in PowerShell, that means it will not prompt anything. And now you can see the installations of the AWS application agent has started. It will take some time. Just keeps your eyes on here, because we are going to take a break, bio break for 5 minutes. And you can take also break, and you can see different phases has started, right, for this kind of migration. So if the migration has started, the disk copy has been started, as is a block level application. So it's fine. First you will download the AWS application agent, and then all of the replication process will get started. So let's take a break, guys, and we'll come back after 5 minutes. Okay, we are back. Okay, I can see now the replication has been completed. That means the syncing has been initialized. It is not yet fully complete. And out of 150, I'm using one active source server, and these are all of the information. So I have 30 GB of disk space in my C drive and all stuff, right? These are kind of informations you can see. So now, if I just go back to the console, and if I go to sorry, my God. If I go to the migration section, I click on that particular server, you can see now that is something, sorry, that is something for discovery. Now you can see the discovery event we started earlier. Now it has started capturing all of the CPU usages and RAM usages, all of the information. Okay, because we are waiting for that. And now if you go for the EC2 instance recommendation, and if you follow the same steps that I showed you earlier, it will give you the same result, for your next server as well. So let's see if I go for Mumbai and choose all of the standard metrics, maximum utilizations. Now this time it will give you two server information. One is pre-demo test server, and now our server is currently just discovered a couple of minutes back. If I just open the CSV file, and if you see that now there's a two servers, and the server informations there. Yeah, so one is T3 a medium, one is T3 a small, based on the utilizations, because some of the things are running, right? There's a discovery, sorry, the migration has started, so then maybe the CPU utilization is a little bit better and more than earlier. Maybe that based on that, it is giving some of the different recommendations. So anyways, that is something, the discovery. And if I go to the migrations again, still okay. If I just go and create the application, let's say, so I just want to see that application. App server. This is the same. No, I don't need that. So go to dashboard. Go to dashboard. There's a tool discovery. That's okay. And then there's another migration. And then something I missed out. Let me. Okay. No, I think these sections I missed out. So what I've just done, that we have executed that migration tool, and the initial synchronization has started. You can see there's a progress of some replications happening right now. That means the migration actually has started. Okay, so if you just open that server, you'll see more details about that particular migration status in progress, and this is all of the informations. And again, this is a kind of basic informations and the network. But if you go and see the updates, the actual migration right now in progress, these are migration updates. And once the synchronization is done, initial sync, then you get this kind of information. So if you go there, then okay, once you're done, then you see your migration has done fully, the cartover. So we have to wait for that, and it will take some time for enter the migrations, the initial sync. And then once done, I'll show you what will be the step-by-step process for such migration. But maybe not now, maybe next session, because next session couple of more things we'll discuss, like some of the settings, and also the database migration service. How can you do a migration? So before we end it up, I have a couple of things for you guys, that let's say even for the database migration, you can do a little homework for the next class, so that you will understand more. So if I just bring up that particular architecture, so sometime what happened, that if you have the database server, you can do the migration, you can using the same migration tool like MGM for the database, but it's not recommended. So MGN is not recommended for the database migration, guys. Okay, please be careful. Sometimes you see the MGN is okay for MS SQL database server migration. Sometimes you will see the MGN is good for other database server. But from my experience or from our experience, don't use this tool, whatever we have just discussed, for any database migration. Okay. For the database migration, you can rely on database own native tool, okay, like Locksheet for SQL or MySQL Binlock something, or you can use the tool called DMS, which is AWS provided tool. That tool you can use. Okay, don't use the MGN for the database server. That is something, a side note for you. Okay, any questions, guys? I mean, I keep on talking for last few minutes after the break. Any questions from your side? Or
So can we see, please, our on-premises server? What's happening over there? I can see our 21% is in progress, but what's actually happening over in the?
Absolutely. If we can bring it up, it will not show you anything. I mean, it has done. It is showing that okay, I'm done. I've started the initial synchronization, and things are happening at the back end. All you can see the CPU utilizations or RAM utilization little higher because it is happening in the. So let's say if you just go and put some tasks MGR task manager, and if you see more details, you can see the Amazon SSM, some of the discovery updaters running. Okay, and if you go to CPU, so what happened that usually whatever the CPU have, whenever you start this kind of migration, your source server, there will be certain computing contention. Computing contention means there will be a pressure on your source server on your RAM and CPU, okay, and even for the network. So it's always recommendation that whenever you start the migration, try to select some off production hour. It's a kind of mutual discussion with your customer that probably weekend or off peak hour, and then start doing all of the migration, because during this migration process, your source server may have a hit on the performance, and probably it's not good.
So how much the downtime might be required for this migration?
See, for this migration, it is there's no such downtime, because what's happening currently is kind of continuous replication. So let's say if you make some changes here, let's say if you create some of the folder there, okay, the same folder will get replicated to AWS, because it's a kind of continuous migration, a continuous replications. Okay.
Yes, but, like please don't mind, sir. Like I have a doubt over here. Might be the client server is like overutilizing, and we are doing also the migration. So won't it affect the performance of the on-premises server?
Yeah.
So is it like something like that? It's best practices to be like should have the downtime for this.
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree with you. So we cannot avoid downtime, right? I mean, downtime, it's always a good, like you have to take downtime. Why so? Let's say in reality, let's say that is the DNS, let's say from GoDaddy, for an example, right? And they are using GoDaddy for their DNS routing. Let's say anybody, their end user, they would like to see netflix.com. Let's say it's netflix.com. And people are going to GoDaddy, and then it will go to the application server, okay, and application communicates to your database. So in this situation, once this application server, let's say, migrated here, all of the data got synced, for an example, through this cloud vendor, still you need a downtime, because what happened, let's say you need to do a proper cutover time, okay, which we call a final cutover. So let's say once all of the 100% data is there. So let's say your customer has declared that whatever the data is there, it is there. Then you need to fix a cutover time, maybe Saturday or Sunday midnight. Okay, and then what you need to do that once this enter migration done, data got synced, then you have to change the records in your GoDaddy to AWS. It can be GoDaddy or it can be Route 53 as well. Then this DNS, this DNS propagation time, you need to factor for certain this kind of routing, because it is not immediate, right? So DNS propagation, you need to factor at least 30 minutes or maybe 1 hour. That is propagation, and that is something for the at the DNS level. And also during this cutover, for the final cutover, let's say you're doing for at the Sunday the Sunday midnight, so those few hours you have to also take a downtime. Okay, so this is very important, guys, that whenever you do the downtime, probably the continuous data sync, there's no problem, but for the actual migration, there's a definitely a little downtime there. You understand?
Got it, sir. Got it. Thank you so much.
No problem. So if I
Sir,
go,
I have one question.
yeah.
I
Yes.
have one question. Yeah. So the application which is running on client, this on-premises server, Windows server, then this is collecting some data like how many partitions and what is the RAM size, what is the CPU utilization. So what is happening on target side? Like it is creating a resources according to the statistics which actually it is fetching out from on-premises server, or this is collecting just data and dumping somewhere?
Very excellent question. Very good question. That is something our next day discussion, but since you brought this question, so what happened that whenever this migration starts, it creates a kind of replication server, which is called a staging server. Okay, staging environment. So in the staging environment, all of the replication actually be taken care of by staging environment. Okay, this guy, your actual server is still not there. Okay, so once this cutover, once this final testing is done, okay, then you have to promote the server, the actual server, which will be application server, based on the replication settings, or you have to define a proper template that what size of the server would it be. It is a T3A small or T3A large, based on the the EC2 recommendation that you have, right? So to answer your questions, if I go back to AWS console, and now it's 51 sync. So if you go to there, you see there's a proper settings. If I go to settings, not this one. It's a very good question. I'll show you. And which one? That one. So this one, which is already done. Just give me a second. I'm just trying to find that particular settings. Because for every migration, there's a replication settings there. You need to define your target group server, etc. There's something called template, right? For change that assessment recommendations, workflow templates, upload, then in the updates. No, it's not there. I'll pull it up next time. Okay, Jay. So I'll show you, from where you have to do this when you do actual, this.
Okay. One more question I have regarding this.
Please. Please ask. Yeah.
Let's say on this server, there is a one Java application which is running, like a CRM application which is running fine.
Mm.
Okay, and we are doing a migration. So in the migration, this Java application will also come out, and we got that application on AWS system automatically,
Yes.
or we have to install separately that application on AWS.
No. So your application
okay.
binary also part of the same migration.
Okay.
Unless until it's a licensed version. So what that's what I'm saying, right? For any application, so let's say if it's a let's say Exchange server, SharePoint server, there's a lot of license complexity, right? So maybe your data will be there, but the moment you try to launch the application from your AWS, once the migration is done, then probably you'll get a lot of fatal error, the licensing issue. So you need to have the proper license mechanism. But this Java application and let's say whatever .NET application, during the migration, the application binary is a part of the migration. So your application will seamlessly work there as well, followed by the
Okay,
proper
and
testing.
then after migration, we can actually do the formalities of licensing if required on that AWS VM, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
But to just highlight Dave over here, if I'm not wrong, when this kinds of kind of a Java kind of application is running, if they required a license, when we are doing that replication, so I don't think so that the changes will happen anything on that particular application, right?
No,
it should be work same as flawlessly over there also where we are migrating it.
absolutely. So as I said, so your let's say you have developed an application by .NET for an example, right? So you have the IIS installed on your source machine.
Correct.
All of the application pool, etc. So the moment the migration is done, and you will see there's no problem of opening or accessing the IIS application because it is already IIS a part of the Windows, right? And you are using the IIS. My
Correct.
point is, if any application, let's say some of the application, let's say from any security virtual appliance, let's say Fortinet firewall is a virtual appliance, right? It is running on EC2 for an example. And if you are doing the same kind of migration using this MGN, and then if you try to open the Fortinet application on AWS side, probably they will give a lot of MAC binding or some kind of license complexity. I'm coming from those applications.
Okay. Got it.
Correct.
So for application server level, there is a MGM. For the database, there is a DMS. And for the block level and for the file level, there is a different this tool we have to use it, correct? In block and file, what we can use it? Is it MGM we can use it or some other tool we have to use?
Yeah, for database, you can use AWS DMS or database native replication or migration service called SQL, Logsheet, MySQL, Oracle. They have Oracle Data Guard and DMS, of course. And for the file level replication or let's say shared storage level replication, there is a different service called Data Sync that you can think for.
Data Sync, okay, got it. Data Sync, okay.
Okay, so if you go to the service under the migration, you see if you just click on the migrations, what's that?
Below migration and transfer.
Migration and transfer, correct. And you see there's an option called Data Sync.
Okay.
And then if you go to Data Sync, then certain configuration. So also I'll try to show the Data Sync. I'm trying to build a lab for that. So basically you need that, this course storage and all stuff. Yeah.
Fine. Thanks.
Cool. It is already 85%. So if you can wait, let's see how fast it is. 650.
How long should the agent be connected to gather the data?
It would be somewhere around, for our case, it took how much? 15 to 20 minutes, because the moment we install the actual migration, by that time, if you went back, then by that time we have all of the data. For us, it's 15 to 20 minutes. So typically, it is within 15 minutes to 20 minutes, Bernard.
But I think so in a real-time situation, real life, at least for a week, you should be able to run it, right?
Absolutely.
Because
very important pointer. So see, really thanks a lot, Bernard, that you have said. So the best practice is 30 days. Okay. So
Okay.
for the 30 days, you need to do all of the discovery continuously. Okay. So I thought that you were asking about the how fast the connector, the
No,
agent will push.
Mhm.
But for real situation, yes, it at least the 30 days would be a decent window by which you'll get to know your peak hour, average, and all stuff, because based on your load and application behavior, right? Okay. So now you see, I think our server, which is that one, the new server, the initial sync is 100%, and now you see there's a creating snapshot. So to answer, so somebody asked the question that, is it the real server is happening or immediately? So how is happening backend? So basically, there's a staging server is being created, and that's why snapshot is being created. So if I go to EC2, I know there's a very long topic today, but if you go to AWS Management Console and go to EC2, then you see there's a staging server, got created. So where I got instance, yeah, the name is AWS Application Migration Services Replication Server. So that is the server, which is a kind of replication server, or somebody called the staging server. Okay, so this server and this server, now they are doing their own job. Okay, so whatever the data is there, actually the staging server is kind of main server, which is responsible for certain migrations job. Once you declare that, okay, all of my, now it's time for the cutover, because I think Mobin asked this question that, when, is there any downtime that we have to factor? So if your team says, okay, I am okay about this migration now, maybe Sunday night, then on the final time, just give me a second. So that time you have to declare that, okay, I'm okay for the actual migration. So what do I mean by that? If I go to see, you can see creating snapshot, and this particular server has got created, it is running, but it is P3 small. So now if I go there, okay, and just open the server, you see there's a lot of phases right now. I'll not get into that because it will take another 45 minutes to show you whole process. So we are here, not ready. Why not ready? Because maybe your QA guy, your security guy, your testing guy, or application team, they will come and they will, sit together and they decide now it is, now it's time for testing. Because sometimes what happened that you need to see that your proper data got migrated, or your application working perfectly fine as expected. So there's a lot of phases, like, you have to do a first test environment, then you have to do a final cutover. Those steps you have to follow, and then ultimately your main server will get created, something like that. So I've already yeah. Who is this?
Can I ask,
Yeah.
Isaiah, would we get charged for the staging server?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. So if you go to AWS pricing calculator, AWS pricing calculator, and then create estimate, whatever the region. Okay, and then if you see MGN, here it is maybe not there, but definitely let's say public Microsoft service. So let's say you are going for one server, and number of hours per server 730 hours, for an example. Then definitely right now this particular server here for the EBS, it is not chargeable, but for the staging server definitely you have to pay for that, how much time the server will be running. Yeah, this server definitely, yes, as a on-demand price. So yeah. So it's definitely chargeable. And also there's another charge, since you asked this question. If you go to the volumes, and then in the volumes you see at the volumes there's a disk charges as well. So during the migration you have also you need to factor the disk charges, like the 30 GB for your source server, that is chargeable, and also the snapshot, because you can see there's a lot of snapshot is happening for that particular ongoing replications. So you need to factor those kind of charges in your solutions.
One more thing, Dinesh, regarding this, the migration when it is happening. So the snapshot will be created how many times? So it will be like once that the replication completely data is migrated, then only the snapshot will be get created, or in between the phases, the multiple snapshot will be get created.
It's a phases. Okay, I mean, let's say if you make some changes, you can see the interval time of that, how frequent it is there. Is a first snapshot, it is 1847, it's 1844, then 1847, 1843. Okay, that's frequent. It will do, and
Can't we stop that snapshot manually? Is there any option to stop? I just wanted to have the final snapshot to be taken. I don't want multiple phases
no,
snapshot.
you shouldn't do that, because otherwise you don't know that particular when the problem is which block what sort of data is there. We really don't recommend that you should only take. So let's say for this particular migration you have only 30 GB. So now my thing is done, right? My replication is done. So now I'm okay for the actual migration. So then what you have to do, that you have to go and simply launch that instances based on the proper test case. But don't play around with any snapshot because it is not recommended from AWS.
Okay.
Sorry, is this snapshot really required after the migration?
So from the
After the completion
snapshot on,
of
yeah. So from the snapshot only. So let's say the staging server, and there's a snapshot. The snapshot is ultimately it holding all of the data of this application server. Let's say something like that. Let's say you have all of the data. Okay, all of the application data, and this snapshot is ultimately is holding all of the data of this server. If you delete that, then you'll lose all of the data. So that means when you declare that, okay, that's my final time for the cutover, and then what happened from that snapshot, there's a server will get created, and then particular disk will get attached there. And you'll get that data. Once you are done, then probably you don't need automatically MGN will get deleted all of these things once you are done with this. So you will get deleted this or this one.
So one question, not regarding this migration thing. We have so many snapshots. Can we store it somewhere in our like storage, our private storage somewhere
No,
to reduce or save the cost? Is it possible?
no.
I've asked the same question to my seniors.
It is not possible, but there's a way around that. What you can do, there's an option called export. Okay, you can do a kind of export, or what you can do, that whatever the data you have on the server, you can take a kind of backup of that particular server. Let's say in the server you have got a 30 GB of data, right? You can use your own data, okay, and export to some of the external storage, or maybe FTP you can download. But to answer your questions precisely, if you are asking the snapshot can be stored in your private place, the answer is no, you cannot do that.
You can connect it to the same instances on your in your AWS, correct? You can connect it to the.
The snapshot is the
create as
AWS.
you
Snapshot is
can
the
create it as a
AWS.
volume.
Correct. From the snapshot, you can create a volume and you can attach as many as to AWS. But the moment you're taking out from AWS doesn't allow you to do that.
Correct.
All right, guys. So it's 7. I think it's very interesting. So many questions, and still we are not done. And probably we can park it for the next session when we can show you the steps for the, how can you, create one after another launch, and then final migration will be done. Okay.
Sure.
So how do you like this? I mean, do you think that this kind of bootcamp is really helpful for your career?
It's required. I would say it's
Exactly.
necessary.
It's very helpful. Very nice session.
Migration was like a nightmare to me, but not anymore. Thank you so much.
So you will be happy, no problem, sir. You will be happy that I'll try to bring the migration different stages. It's at 300, then probably we can discuss 400. The DMS will come into the picture. There's a lot of complexity. Then also I'll show you how can you do a migration for the database level using native replication, and then definitely the disaster recovery will come soon.
Sure.
Thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate again, and probably we'll connect you after puja with the same
Sure.
slot.
Sure.
Thanks.
Sir.
Take care.
Thank
God
you.
bless you guys.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks.